All right, welcome back to another property tour. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Joshua Guevara. I'm an associate broker with the AM Real Estate Group and managing member of Triple G Properties LLC. And today, as I promised, I'm gonna do a full breakdown of the property that you're gonna see over here that I wholesaled recently. I just wanna kind of break down, obviously, difference between wholesale and retail. As you know, I am a licensed real estate agent, so I would have to, make that well known whenever we do meet each other. But of course, wholesale is going to be typically cash deals or owner financing. Here in New Mexico, they allow what's called a real estate contract or owner financing or seller financing. They are three different things, but they are very similar. I can make a whole video on that on its own, which I probably will at a later date. Retail obviously is going to entail, brokers, real estate agents, right? It being on the market with a sign up and all that good stuff. Yeah, this was a pre-foreclosure lead, so we really had no time, okay? We had to move super fast. I think the foreclosure steps we're actually gonna hit on the 8th of February. So moving really fast, so that's the real difference between retail and wholesale. Retail can take a little bit of time unless you do find the right cash buyer, right? You can still put it up as a cash sale, but to wholesale, you don't need a license, so there's that as well. Obviously, being in retail, you're gonna have to be a licensed real estate agent. So we'll go ahead and jump into this transaction. You're gonna see me walking up to the property most likely, and you've already seen the foundation part of it, right? Whenever you're dealing with permanent foundations and mobile homes, you need to make sure there's actually a deactivated title, okay? So that's another thing we kind of ran into with this transaction. Permanent foundation wasn't the issue, it was just the fact that she didn't have the actual title showing the stamp with the deactivation on it. So that could have been a problem for us, but the good thing is at the end of the day, we ended up closing with my title company, which I'm gonna get into here in a little bit. We actually ended up having pretty much, it was like a bidding process with the buyers. And let me just kind of get to how I even found the buyers in the first place. I actually went to Craigslist. They were all Craigslist leads. Everyone that I've talked to, majority that were actually interested in buying the property, were all Craigslist leads. Good thing to kind of keep your options open, right? Not always social media, maybe not your phone book, but Craigslist, right? Just those little markets that people are in that are always looking for deals. I do want to let you know I did have total control of the transaction for the most part, right? I walked it all the way through to the finish line. That's starting off by getting the third-party authorization form and also getting the contact with the lawyer who's holding the foreclosure, okay? You want to make sure you have both of those on lock because at the end of the day, if they can't get you that final payoff before you need to close, you're shooting in the dark at that point, right? And you can end up coming in short, or you could end up having just any kind of issues at the end because you're not in contact with those people, okay? At the end of the day, always remember the lawyer is gonna be the one who pays the lender, okay? So lawyer is the biggest thing you wanna be in contact with. Now, another thing with these properties is septic systems and wells, okay? On the example, this one's a shared well, okay? It was shared by 5 different properties and it's one huge well that's actually in the back corner. So there is technically like a utility easement for the electricity and the well in that back corner. When it comes to those situations, the New Mexico state law requires you, and again, requires you to have a septic inspection completed. Doesn't mean anything has to be done, but the septic inspection has to be completed and delivered to the buyer, and title has to have proof of that. Okay, so if you're issuing title insurance, right, you gotta make sure that you have that in there. So that was another thing we had to run into. I actually ended up paying for the septic inspection up front, and I ended up splitting the fee with the seller at the end of the day because, just to make the deal happen and make it all right, and of course keep as much money in the seller's pocket, right? Because a lot of wholesalers, what you'll hear is, it's about your fee at the end of the day, which don't get me wrong, yes, I got paid, and I could have probably got paid a little more, but that's okay. At the end of the day, it's all about the satisfaction of really helping a client and her remembering you, right? Because you went above and beyond in this transaction. So like for an example, I paid for the septic inspection, went all the way out there, right? Dug up the caps with the guy who's doing the inspection just to help save us some money, right? Because it was gonna be about a $700 charge for him to find him. He saw me out there digging and he was like, hey man, don't worry, we're gonna find these real quick. And sure enough, in like 30 seconds, he found them. I dug them up and he was like, boom, there you go, flat fee of $570, okay? So with that being said, first contract got canceled because the septic obviously failed, right? So that buyer was just completely out. Being nice, I sent the deal to his title company. they were really slacking. I didn't want to go back with them. So of course, this is where I say, keep your team players on your squad, make sure they know what they're doing and they work fast. I actually turned this deal in with 6-day turnaround to close before the auction steps. And we made that happen, right? We got title commitment back, CC&Rs, which are covenants and restrictions for the land and the area, depending on how it was subdivided, right? So that's a whole nother avenue I can jump down, but we don't have the time today. But again, closed in 6 days. Make sure you're working with a good team that knows what they're doing and they can turn around and get this done for you, right? Title ladies, I want to thank, huge shout out to the Lisa Ortega team at Old Republic Title in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They killed it for me. I'm gonna try and continue doing these videos for every wholesale deal that I've been doing. So I'll have some more that are coming up as of course as they close, right? I don't want to show you guys a deal that obviously terminates and explodes. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll keep these property tours going.